In the heart of the American Midwest, where the horizon meets vast wheat fields, Jason, a 23-year-old, bears the weight of the world on his shoulders. After the tragic death of his parents in a tractor accident, he becomes the sole caretaker of his younger brother Andrew, who is only 13 years old. The family farm, once thriving and full of life, now echoes with the sound of silence and longing. "Jason, do you think it's going to rain today?" Andrew asks, looking at the cloud-laden sky while leaning against the old barn. His hands were still too small for the farm's big responsibilities, but his eyes carried a maturity forced by loss. "I don't know, Andrew, but we need to finish harvesting the corn before the rain arrives," Jason replies, wiping sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. His voice was firm, but his eyes betrayed the fatigue from sleepless nights and constant worries. They spent their days between the fields and the barns, struggling to keep the farm running. Financial pressure was suffocating. Every bill to pay, every needed machinery repair weighed on Jason like a ton. He knew that every harvested grain of corn, every collected egg, meant one more step toward keeping the farm and taking care of Andrew. At night, after a simple dinner, the brothers sat on the front porch gazing at the stars. It was one of the few moments when they allowed themselves to talk about the past. "They would be proud of you, Jason," Andrew murmured one night, breaking the silence. Jason looked at his brother, feeling a lump in his throat. "I just wish things were different, Andrew. That they were here with us." Andrew snuggled closer, seeking comfort. "Me too, but we're in this together. We'll figure it out." Despite the hardships, there were moments of lightness when Andrew chased the dogs in the field, or when Jason found a new recipe to try with the few ingredients they had. It was in these small moments that hope reignited, reminding them that as long as they were together, they could face any challenge. Days passed, and the situation grew increasingly difficult. In a twilight tinted with orange and pink after a long day's work on the farm, Jason and Andrew sat on the worn-out porch of their house. The last rays of the sun cast long shadows over the fields, bringing temporary peace to Jason's incessant worries. "Andrew," Jason began, breaking the comfortable silence, "I've been thinking a lot about our future, about the farm." Andrew, with curious and attentive eyes, turned to his brother. "What's on your mind, Jason?" I think we should go to the city, maybe Chicago. There are more opportunities there, especially for you. Better schools, a fresh start," Jason said, his voice trembling with a mixture of hope and hesitation. Andrew furrowed his brow, pondering. "But what about the farm and everything Mom and Dad built here?" Jason sighed, looking at his calloused hands. I know they love this place, but Andrew, I'm not sure if I can keep all of this up on my own. And you deserve something more than this, something more than I can give you here." Andrew was somewhat reluctant, knowing that the farm was everything their parents had built, but he also knew that Jason was doing his best and agreed to his brother's idea. In the days that followed, the brothers began saving every penny they earned. Jason took on extra jobs fixing fences and tractors for neighbors, while Andrew helped by selling vegetables and eggs at the local market. They counted every dollar at night, carefully noting it in a worn-out notebook, each page a step closer to their dream. On a rainy afternoon, as the sound of rain gently tapped on the roof, Andrew approached Jason with a rusty coffee can filled with coins and crumpled bills. "Look, Jason, this is all I could save from selling vegetables and eggs. I think it might help for our trip to Chicago," Andrew said, his eyes shining with determination and a hint of pride. Jason took the can, feeling its weight in his hands. "You've worked hard, Andrew. I couldn't be prouder of you." The brothers worked hard until they had the money they needed for the tickets, several months of accommodation, and a rainy day fund. They began planning their move, and on the night before the big change, the brothers packed their few possessions: faded photographs of their parents, clothes, a few books, and the coffee can with their savings sitting amidst boxes and suitcases. They shared one last dinner in the house that once resounded with a complete family's laughter. "Do you think they would be happy with our decision?" Andrew asked softly, looking at a photo of their parents on the wall. Jason put his arm around Andrew's shoulders, pulling him close. "I think they would. They always wanted the best for us, and we're going to do this for them. We're going to do this for us." With the dawn, they locked the farm's door, a chapter of their lives closing as they headed to the bus station, their hearts heavy with farewell but filled with hope for what the future in Chicago might bring. Now tell us here in the comments, do you think the brothers will achieve success in the city? What do you think will happen in Chicago? Do you think they will return to the farm someday, or will they sell the farm? Will Jason and Andrew remain close, or will they grow apart? When Jason and Andrew arrived in Chicago, the magnitude of the city hit them like a wave. Towering skyscrapers rose like giants of steel and glass, the streets teeming with ceaseless activity, and the air filled with a mixture of sounds, smells, and movements that were both thrilling and overwhelming. "Andrew, this is completely different from anything we've ever known," Jason said, looking around with a mixture of awe and apprehension. They walked through the bustling streets carrying their suitcases, each absorbing the novelty and chaos of the big city. Andrew, with a look of amazement, replied, "It's incredible, Jason, but it's so big. Do you think we'll be able to adapt here?" Jason pursed his lips, his determination firm. "We'll make it work for both of us." The brothers soon secured a modest yet welcoming apartment, and in the first few days Jason went job hunting, walking from company to company, store to store. But with each rejection, his spirit sank a little further. His rural accent and lack of city experience seemed like insurmountable barriers. "Sorry, we're looking for someone with more urban experience," a store manager apologized after a brief interview. Frustrated, Jason walked the crowded streets, feeling out of place and discouraged. On a particularly difficult night after another series of rejections, he opened up to Andrew in their small rented apartment. "Andrew, I don't know if I can do this. They can see I'm an outsider, that I don't belong here," Jason confessed, his voice laden with weariness. Andrew, sitting beside his brother, placed a hand on Jason's shoulder. "You're the strongest and smartest guy I know. If anyone can do this, it's you. I believe in you, Jason. We'll make it." Inspired by his brother's words, Jason rose the next morning with a renewed resolution. He began tailoring his resume, emphasizing his hard work and adaptability, and started looking for opportunities in less conventional sectors. Finally, his persistence paid off. Jason came across a job listing for a construction site. It wasn't his dream job, but it was a start. "I'm going to get this job, Andrew, no matter what happens. I won't give up. We're in this together," Jason said with a new spark of determination in his eyes. With that resolve, Jason took the first step toward achieving the American dream, ready to face the challenges that life in the big city had in store for him. With Andrew's words, Jason went for the interview, and he impressed the company owner. And then, it seemed like Chicago decided to smile upon the brothers as Jason got the job. On the following day, Jason rose before dawn, feeling a mixture of nervousness and determination. Today was his first day on the construction site, an opportunity he knew was crucial. Wearing his worn-out boots and a flannel shirt, he looked at himself in the cracked mirror of the small apartment he shared with Andrew in Chicago. "Andrew, I'm heading out," Jason said, adjusting his baseball cap. Andrew, still sleepy but smiling, replied from his room, "Good luck, Jason, you're gonna rock it." Arriving at the construction site, Jason was greeted by a sea of unfamiliar faces and the shrill sound of machines and hammers. The supervisor, a burly man named Frank, approached with an evaluating look. "You must be Jason. I heard you're from the countryside. Think you can handle city work?" Frank asked with a hint of disdain. Jason looked Frank straight in the eyes, his voice steady. "I grew up on a farm, sir. I'm used to hard work and long hours. I'll give it my best." Frank nodded, still not entirely convinced, and led him to meet the team and tour the work site. Jason was assigned to simple initial tasks, but his ability to learn quickly and his tireless work ethic soon caught everyone's attention. "Hey, newbie, come here," called one of the more seasoned workers, a guy named Calvin, during lunch. "You may not say much, but your work speaks for itself. You're doing great." Jason thanked him, feeling a hint of pride. He redoubled his efforts, arriving earlier than others and leaving later. His knack for fixing minor machinery glitches, a skill learned on the farm, proved invaluable. As weeks passed, Jason became a respected member of the team. His hands-on knowledge and straightforward approach solved several issues on site, saving time and money. "Jason, I have to admit you surprised me," Frank said one day with an approving nod. "You have a good sense for this. Keep up the good work." At the end of the day, while cleaning his tools, Jason felt a sense of accomplishment. He had proven to himself and others that despite being from the countryside, he had much to offer in the big city. Returning home, Jason shared the good news with Andrew. "They're starting to respect me there, Andrew. I think we're finally finding our place here." Andrew beamed a radiant smile. "I knew you could do it, Jason. You always do." At that moment, while sharing a simple meal in their apartment, the brothers felt a renewed optimism about their lives in Chicago, a feeling they hadn't experienced in a long time. A few days later, on a clear and promising morning, Jason arrived at the construction site, greeting his colleagues with a nod. However, the day took an unexpected and dark turn when, a few hours later, a deafening crash echoed through the site. One of the walls under construction had collapsed in a whirlwind of dust and debris. Alarmed, Jason rushed to the scene along with other workers to help in any way they could. Fortunately, there were no injuries, but tension hung palpably in the air. Supervisor Frank arrived running, his face flushed with anger and concern. "What happened here, Frank?" he shouted, assessing the damage. Before anyone could respond, the owner of the construction company, Mr. Donovan, a tall man with a commanding presence, appeared on the scene. His expression was stormy, and he was looking for someone to blame. "This is going to cost a fortune. Who is responsible for this?" Mr. Donovan exclaimed, glaring furiously at the workers. One of Jason's co-workers, looking nervously at the ground, muttered, "It was the rookie, Jason. He was working near that wall yesterday." Jason felt his stomach sink. "But I followed all the instructions. There was no way to know the wall was unstable," he protested, his voice almost a whisper of disbelief. Mr. Donovan turned to Jason with an accusing look. "You're new here. Don't know how things work. This loss will come out of your paycheck. Consider yourself lucky you're not being fired." Jason felt a wave of despair and injustice. "This isn't fair. I didn't do anything wrong," he said, his voice gaining strength. "I need that money. Please double-check. There must have been some other mistake." But his words fell on deaf ears. Mr. Donovan had already walked away, leaving Jason standing there amid the chaos, feeling powerless and betrayed. Back at the apartment, Jason told Andrew about the incident. His voice choked with frustration. "They accused me, Andrew. They're going to deduct it from my salary. I don't know what we're going to do," Jason said, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders once again. Andrew, with an expression of indignation and support, replied, "This isn't right, Jason. You've always been careful. We have to find a way to prove your innocence." That night, the brothers talked late into the evening, planning how they would face this injustice. They knew it would be a tough battle, but they were determined to fight for the truth and justice. On the weekend, the late afternoon sunlight filtered through the windows of the small cafe where Jason sat, trying to forget his worries as he sipped on bitter coffee. He couldn't help but overhear the conversation at the neighboring table. An older man with graying hair and a demeanor that exuded experience was talking about his career as a civil engineer and his brief stint in the police force. Curious and seeking a momentary distraction, Jason approached. "I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but I couldn't help but overhear that you were a civil engineer. I'm dealing with an issue at the construction site where I work," he began hesitantly, seeking in a stranger not only a vent for his frustrations, but perhaps some help for his problem. The older man, Roman, looked at Jason with a penetrating and interested gaze. "Oh, is that so? Tell me more about it, young man," Roman said, inviting Jason to sit. Jason sat down, sharing the story of the collapsed wall and how he had been unjustly blamed. As he spoke, Roman's expression grew increasingly serious. "This sounds like a grave injustice," commented Roman after Jason finished. "Do you think you've been set up?" "I don't know what to think. I just know I didn't cause that accident," replied Jason, his face reflecting the anguish and confusion he felt. Roman nodded thoughtfully. "You see, I worked as a civil engineer for many years and also had a brief stint in the police force, working night shifts to pay for college. I have experience in investigations. If you'd like, I can take a look at the accident site." Perhaps I can find something that was overlooked." Jason felt a spark of hope for the first time in days. "Would you do that? That would be amazing. I just want to clear my name." "Of course," said Roman with an encouraging smile. "I can't promise anything, but I'll do what I can to help. Justice means a lot to me." The two exchanged phone numbers to stay in touch. In the days that followed, Roman visited the construction site, carefully examining the scene of the collapse. He made detailed notes, talked to the workers, and analyzed the site's safety procedures. Jason watched, impressed by Roman's thoroughness and dedication. With each passing day, Jason's admiration and gratitude grew. Roman not only gave him hope, but also made him feel that he wasn't alone in this fight. "Thank you, Roman. Regardless of the outcome, I'm already grateful for everything you're doing," Jason said sincerely. Roman placed his hand on Jason's shoulder. "Everyone deserves justice, Jason. We'll uncover the truth together." At that moment, an unexpected friendship formed between the young worker and the retired engineer, united by a common desire for truth and justice. After weeks of meticulous investigation, Roman summoned Jason for a meeting in a quiet city park, away from curious ears and prying eyes. Sitting on a bench under the shade of an old oak tree, Roman seemed to carry news of great importance. "Jason, I finally found something," Roman began, his expression grave. "The records I obtained and the information I collected clearly indicate a serious error by the engineer in charge of the project, not you." Wide-eyed, Jason eagerly asked, "Are you sure? Does this mean I can prove my innocence?" "Yes, I'm sure," Roman continued, closing the folder in his hands. "There's evidence that the engineer and the construction company owner were aware of some structural flaws and chose to ignore them to save money. This is more than a mistake, it's corruption." Jason felt a mix of relief and anger. So they knew. They put everyone's lives at risk just to save a few dollars. "Exactly," confirmed Roman, his tone somber. "But I have contacts in the police force from my time as an officer. I've talked to them and they are interested in pursuing this. It will expose their corruption and clear your name." Jason took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the past few weeks beginning to lift. "I don't know how to thank you, Roman. You had no reason to help me, but still," Roman interrupted, smiling slightly. "It's not about having a reason, Jason. It's about doing what's right. I saw an honest man in you being wronged. I couldn't stand by." As the police began their investigation, Jason and Roman stayed in constant contact. Jason was impressed with Roman's ability to navigate the legal and bureaucratic complexities, admiring the older man's tenacity and commitment to justice. A few weeks later, news of the corruption scandal at the construction company spread, causing a media frenzy. The engineer and the owner of the construction project were arrested, facing serious charges. Jason, now completely exonerated, felt a wave of gratitude and admiration for Roman. "You've changed my life, Roman. I'll forever be in your debt." "No debt, my young friend. Seeing justice served is more than enough for me," replied Roman with a satisfied smile. Together they had faced a giant and emerged victorious, a true testament to the power of persistence and integrity. Jason found another job because he couldn't stop working. He needed to support himself and Andrew. However, now with no debt, everything he earned he invested in himself. After the whirlwind of events that led to Jason's exoneration and the exposure of corruption at the construction company, there was a palpable shift in his life. With his unjust debt canceled and his name finally cleared, Jason could breathe a sigh of relief. But more than that, he found himself deeply connected to Roman, the man who had become his mentor and unexpected savior. On an autumn afternoon, the two sat at the same cafe where they had first met, with steaming cups of coffee before them. Jason talked about the farm and the challenges he had faced after his parents' death, while Roman shared experiences from his long career in civil engineering and his brief but impactful years in the police force. One day as they walked through a tranquil park, Jason expressed a restlessness. "Roman, sometimes I feel so overwhelmed. I miss my family. I miss the simplicity of life on the farm. It's hard to find balance here." Roman stopped and looked at Jason, his eyes filled with understanding. "Life is a series of ups and downs, Jason. You've already faced more than many do in a lifetime. It's normal to feel this way, but remember, you're not alone. You have me, you have Andrew, and you have a strength within you that you may not have fully realized yet. Jason felt emotional comfort in Roman's presence. It was as if he had found a paternal figure that had been missing during the toughest times of his life. Thank you, Roman. You've been more than a mentor to me. You're like family. I lost, Jason confessed, his voice choked with emotion. With a nod and a gentle smile, Roman placed his hand on Jason's shoulder. We're on this journey together, my young man, and I'll be here whenever you need. The mentoring relationship between Jason and Roman evolved into a deep and meaningful friendship based on mutual respect, shared experiences, and an emotional understanding that both greatly valued. Together they faced life's challenges, finding strength in each other and in the wisdom they shared. Days passed and Roman fell very ill. He was already retired and lived tired. After a few months of strengthening the friendship between Jason and Roman, the news of Roman's death hit Jason like a devastating blow. The old engineer had become more than a mentor. He was a friend, almost like a father. Sitting alone in his apartment, Jason held the letter that Roman had left for him, a letter that contained words that seemed to echo with the warm and wild voice of the older man. My dear Jason, the letter began. If you are reading this, it means that my journey has come to an end. But I want you to know that you were one of the best parts of it. You showed me that kindness and determination still exist in this world, and for that, I'm leaving something for you. Jason swallowed hard, feeling tears threatening to fall. Roman had left him ownership of a small engineering studio and a significant sum of money. It was an immense responsibility, but also an invaluable gift, a symbol of the faith Roman had in him. In the following days, Jason visited the engineering studio. It was a modest space but full of potential. Every instrument, every drawing on the wall spoke of Roman's passion for engineering. Standing there alone, surrounded by his mentor's legacy, Jason made a decision that would change the course of his life. Sitting in Roman's office, now his own, he spoke with Andrew over the phone. Andrew, Roman left me his studio and I've decided to go back to school. I'm going to study engineering. Andrew, on the other end of the line, responded with emotion in his voice. That's amazing, Jason. Roman would have been so proud of you. I hope so. I feel that by doing this, I'm somehow keeping a part of him alive. He believed in me and I want to honor that, Jason said, his voice firm but filled with emotion. Inspired by Roman's memory, Jason immersed himself in his studies. He worked during the day and attended college at night. The nights were long, the books numerous, and the challenges constant. But with every page turned, with every equation solved, he felt Roman's presence by his side, guiding and encouraging him. Years passed, and now, with an engineering degree in hand, Jason looked up at the sky, smiling through tears. I did it, Roman. Thank you for believing in me. In that moment, under the vast blue sky, Jason felt a deep connection to his mentor. He knew that wherever Roman was, he would be smiling back at him, proud of the man Jason had become. Jason worked hard and strived to support Andrew, and Andrew was always very grateful for all the effort his brother put in. 10 years had passed since Jason made the decisive decision to follow in Roman's footsteps in engineering. Now he was a respected engineer known for his integrity and innovation, and the proud owner of his own construction company, a business that was a living tribute to Roman's legacy and teachings. Andrew graduated in business administration with the help of his brother, and during his course, he met Anderson and married her. Today, Jason's office reflected his journey. On the walls hung diplomas and awards alongside photographs of the farm where he had grown up, and a framed picture of Roman, always smiling, always inspiring. He was in his office reviewing plans for a new sustainable project when Andrew entered, holding a baby in his arms. Look who came to visit, Uncle Jason, Andrew exclaimed with a radiant smile. The baby, with curious eyes and a gummy smile, reached out to Jason. Jason looked at his nephew and smiled. Hey there, little one, you're growing so fast. How's the new family, Andrew? Jason asked. Andrew sat down, gently rocking the baby. We're good, tired but happy, and all thanks to you, Jason. You've supported us so much. Jason shook his head, humbled. I did what any brother would do. Besides, you give me more than I could ask for, a family. After a day of work, it was a common routine for Jason to visit Roman's grave. On one of those late afternoons, with the sun setting and painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Jason was there in front of Roman's gravestone with a bouquet of wildflowers in his hands. Roman, much of what I am today I owe to you, Jason murmured, placing the flowers carefully next to the gravestone. I hope you're proud. Your wisdom, your kindness, they still guide me. He sat there for a moment, lost in thought, feeling a peaceful connection with his mentor. After some time, he stood up, looking at the gravestone once more. I'll keep doing my best, Roman. For you, for Andrew, for myself. Until next time. With these words, Jason walked away, leaving the cemetery with a sense of gratitude and purpose. He knew that as long as he continued to follow the values Roman had taught him, his path would always be illuminated by the memory and spirit of the man who had changed his life forever.